मेरे लिए it was a big struggle for last 35 years.
I think what is really important is just how strong the script is.
I was very, very curious to explore what is there in Kashmir beyond the military that we see and that sort of portrayal constantly in the media.
The first thing I would do after watching a film is read what Roger Ebert has written about it, and it would help me understand the film in much more detail.
Critics जिस तरीके से फिल्म को पढ़ते हैं वो इतना तो इंस्पायर कर देते हैं. They open so many other aspects of the film.
As long as I keep on winning money with the acclaim, I'm fine.
Such a pleasure and honor to have you all in the panel. I saw all of your shots and such brilliant work, and I was wondering why can't our mainstream filmmakers take a cue from you guys? Because you've shown a shot is not just sweet; it can be tangy, it can be edgy. Truly a shot, S-H-O-T, shot in the arm of filmmaking. There is a myth around shots that you take your camera or you take your mobile phone, just shoot and scoot, and the short film is ready. So tell us, how are you going to dispel that notion, and that shots are not the easiest thing to do, and what all goes into its making? What are the challenges you face?
I think, okay, sure. I perhaps, like the starting point for an answer would be like when we say short films, there's short fiction and there's short non-fiction. Yes. The non-fiction work that I have had a chance to do, it's always been a much smaller crew, but at the same time, there is still a rigor that one has to apply. It's definitely not just taking a camera, going and shooting something. There is a lot of rigor that is involved, I think, to make a good film.
I was thinking about it slightly differently. I feel that the inception of cinema came from the short films. So first we jumped into making short films, and that was the main motive for the curiosity that what led us to make something. And initially we had things like one reel films and things like that, and later we started exploring formats of longer narratives beyond 3 minutes and so on and so further. So I'm saying that challenges always existed since the inception till now. There were challenges even back in the time when we mastered the technology of cinematograph and we came up with a camera, but still the bigger question was that how do we distribute and how do we project this? And then came the birth of projectors much later after cameras. And I feel that with each era that passed by, challenges remain the same. But they take different shape and form. Back in early form, it was the most at the onset of technology, different things that we were facing, and till now, it's probably different challenges that we face. Probably now it's about the voice, the speech, the censorship sometimes that we need to think of, or sometimes we may not really need to think of. So I feel that challenges are there since the inception till now. It has already shifted shapes.
Yeah, it's ever evolving basically with time always.
But I have a follow-up question for Faraz for this. Have short films now become a stepping stone for making feature films? Because this is what normally happens.
It's a very subjective question. It has to intend with who is making. I've made my feature and now I'm making a short film, because for me, short film is dictated by short stories that you want to tell, and you can't find any other narrative form but to express it through making a short film. But for I think for a lot of emerging filmmakers, short film becomes a medium where they want to first dip the stick in and gauge how deep it is, how difficult it is, and then later on so forth to explore. But I personally believe that it's not really a set, it's not formulaic that you make a shot and then you step up to making feature films. I feel that sometimes I feel that I've made a feature and I sometimes think that how do I reinterpret the film in fewer words and fewer length, and what if I have to make a short film out of it? So they're short, they're not small.
Is length a plus or a minus? I mean, the fact that we always say brevity is the soul of it, but does it apply here?
Again, I feel that to me, shorter the better. I always admire that how in fewer minutes and fewer words you manage to tell your tale. One of my favorite shots called One Fine Day. It's a 3 minute short film, but if you just see the structure of that film, it just tells you so much, and I feel as gratified as I feel after watching like a 2 hour long film just on 3 minutes. And it could be an artistic choice, it could be a choice by the networks. Like when I was making a film with Apple, with Mami, to shoot the film on iPhone, it was the length was more like a diploma film length, which was like 22-23 minute. But I feel that there are a lot of films that I admire are under 5 minutes as well.
But I mean, this is like in order to rope in our actors on board as well. Cinema is often seen as a director's medium, but actors are the face of it. So this is a question for Sheeba and Harish. How much do you think short films allow you to flex your acting muscles?
Yeah, for me, I think Pratik and Shubham, they have really allowed me to do the things the way I have conceived it for Madan. For me, it's एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो बहुत एक ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस था जब मुझे शुभम और प्रतीक ने ये फिल्म नरेट की। मतलब उसमें मुझे नाइटमेयर्स भी आ रहे थे। उसमें ये था कि फिल्म की ओपनिंग होती है लॉफ्टर से, और लॉफ्टर मतलब मेरे लिए इट वाज अ बिग स्ट्रगल फॉर लास्ट 35 years, कि मैं हंसता ही नहीं था और मेरे बैचमेट्स दे यूज्ड टू लाफ एट मी, कि जब भी मैं हंसने की एक्टिंग करता था तो आवाज आती ही नहीं थी मेरी। तो वो मेरे लिए एक बहुत चैलेंज था जब इन्होंने बताया मुझे कि 1 मिनट की पूरी सिम्फनी क्रिएट होगी, ये होगा, फिर उसके बाद उसके ऊपर पूरी फिल्म है। तो वो 1 मिनट मेरे लिए मुझे अंदर ही अंदर बहुत बड़ा लग रहा था वो। तो एवरी नाइट आई वाज थिंकिंग कि मैं बता देता हूँ इनको यार कि मैं नहीं हंस सकता, कि नहीं तो ये फंस जाएंगे, फिल्म की ओपनिंग ही वहीं से हो रही है। तो सुबह उठ के फिर कहता है नहीं ले ना चैलेंज ले, देखते हैं क्या होगा। बट एज सुन एज वी वेंट इनटू अ स्पेस, तो मुझे लगता है कि वहाँ पे चीजें बननी शुरू हो गई अपने आप में। मतलब वो वहाँ पे को एक्टर्स का रिस्पॉन्स और जितने भी वर्कर्स थे उन्होंने, फिर उसके बीच में वो डायलॉग चल रहा था हमारे लॉफ्टर के बीच में, और वो जो है एक मैजिक क्रिएट हुआ। तो उसमें मुझे लगता है कि प्रतीक और शुभम का पेशेंस और द होल टीम, रवि आई एग्री, आवर डीओपी हैज वर्कड अ लॉट आई थिंक ऑन द आईफोन थिंग, बिकॉज मालूम नहीं था कि लेंसेज कैसे होंगे। ये मतलब मैंने नहीं देखा पर सुना मैंने कि दे हैव रियली वर्कड हार्ड फॉर 2 months 3 months, दे वर सिंपली वर्किंग ऑन दैट। तो एक अच्छा रिलैक्स एटमॉस्फेयर था, मजा आया। नई चीज मतलब मेरा एक कुछ जो हिच था एज एन एक्टर दैट ओपनड।
And Sheba, you have been part of such wonderful movies, web series. You are such a famous, popular actor. What made you say yes to Night Queen?
The script, and I think we've been called to say, "Hey, ye to you have to come on board." So I've worked with Vipin before, and of course it's in the zone of something that is it's a great story to tell. तो हाँ, कोई वजह ही नहीं थी मना करने की यार। Everything is just a win-win. So it's yeah, Night Queen. It's just, I think it's a very good script. And Noirita, I think what she's managed to do in that space that much is that's the thing of the short film. No, it's like it can be like what Faraz was saying. It can be just like something just 3 minutes. No, it's like a haiku, and the beauty of that is literally how it will just come like a little, just a small whiff of breeze, and it can do what the longest film, like a 1 hour film might never manage to do. And as actors, it's the same thing in the sense that it really depends on how alive the script is, how alive it is. You can have a full feature length film, and the script might not offer you anything as an actor, and you might have the longest screen time, but it might not offer you anything really as an actor, which a 5 minute film can, if its authenticity and nuances in place. No? So it's I think long and short में मुझे नहीं लगता actors के लिए is really dramatically different. I think what is really important is just how strong the script is, and the eye of the director.
But we generally tend to measure an actor's role by the length, in normally, 5 minute role, longer roles, at least in feature films we do that. But you're right, the length does not matter. Bonita, do you think it's like kind of easier to explore bolder themes in short films? And that's a question that, and maybe more socially relevant subjects as well.
I mean, I think short films and like being part of films is kind of a practice for me. It's kind of my film school. And I started with like I started making films with my friends. And we were like, that was my film school. Like, okay, whatever we don't have big cameras, we don't have big sound equipments and stuff like that. But so what? We can still go ahead and make movie. So that's how I arrived at a point where I could make my own short film. And to address your question, I think it was definitely a great practice for me to, know and explore, because it's also a short film. And also it's something that you can rehearse enough. It's not, it doesn't require a lot of time. It doesn't require a lot of crew, especially for me to like, I had like a small crew in Vadodara, Gujarat itself. All of the crew members were my friends. I would not say that it's still easier, but it's kind of like I'm starting from a place where I know people who are around me. My sister was my cinemat, and another sister was my AD, and a lot of the people who were around me were my very well acquainted friends. So that kind of made things easier for me to execute bold scenes or bold subjects as well, and do the scenes that which I never thought I would be able to do. Like while writing, you're just working as a writer, like you want to bring all the different kind of ideas, but when you're shifting into acting, there's like, oh shit, you have to do these things as well. So that's when the shit gets real. But it's like the feeling is like very victorious once you get the shots that you want and once you complete that task. And I think good rehearsals, good shot breakdown, that really, really helps you to get what you want in like very limited time, especially if you're working as a very less budget kind of film. So these things really help you out. And yeah, I think short film is the way to go.
I mean, it's a valid form of expression in itself, a short film. The approach to telling a story within a short duration is different from an approach towards making a feature film. I think it was, Anupama had said something very interesting once, that a short film doesn't have time to think. You're not going to be able to use the same cinematic techniques, say in terms of, like narrative building, that you have the luxury of doing in 90, 100 minutes or 2 hours. There isn't any formula to it, but I just know that it's almost like the difference between like writing a short story or a novel. Let's say it's a thing in itself.
Yeah.
I would just to say, I would think that it would require you to think too much.
Yeah.
It's like it's to get to the essence of what Faraz was saying. A full feature, if somebody had to make it in a shot, what would it take? It would require you to, my God, really heavy lifting in your head of another kind.
You have to get set, go from the starting point,
It's like you get into the heart of the matter. It's like you've crushed everything, and you have to just find the essence, the purest essence of that story, and that's for me, that's a short film. It's like it's just the most sharp, concise essence of a story. So it would require a lot of exploration to arrive at it, I feel, because in a long format, there's a lot of stuff you can do around it, a lot of atmosphere you can create around it, but there it's like you just have to nail it in just that thing, and its brevity is its beauty.
Yeah, I completely agree. I see this as an exercise where the stakes are relatively low for me. Sometimes you really need to take off the burden of making films, and I've often seen while navigating into the shots, I'm not talking about the seriousness or preparedness. I feel that that's forgiven, that while you are jumping into conceiving your film, you will put in all your efforts, but somewhere I felt that the stakes have been little lower. There was no heaviness of, are you going to make it to the theaters? There's no heaviness of who's going to watch it. I've often asked, not really questioned, that what is the budget and so many things. And so I feel that when it comes from that part of of your heart and mind, where the stakes are really low, you often try to explore a lot, and that gives birth to a lot of things. I keep I'm sorry that I'll constantly be talking about like how I'm completely enamored by the early cinema, And even like how just talk about how we discovered the art of dissolve was just so magical. So I feel that the more we make, the better it gets for every filmmaker. The more we think, the more we write, the more we read. And what happens with short filmmaking, that there are some certain subjects that actually requires you just that duration or just those few words and not longer. And at times while executing it, you explore a very different methodology. Like the way I went about making Obur is in a way dictating a lot in the way I'm making my feature right now. It's completely taken out. But when I made my first feature, I was just so burdened with like pressures of how the festival journey is going to be, how I'm going to make it to the theater. But after Obur, we actually played cricket in the valley of Kashmir while simultaneously making the film. It has completely changed my point of view. So sometimes in this process of while you take the stakes off your shoulder, you may discover something so unique and so beautiful which just may stick on with you for lifetime. So for me, it did happen while making Obur.
All of you have won a lot of critical acclaim for your films. They've been to major international festivals, have won awards as well. But do you think, I mean, of course, you're talking about how stakes are low, the box office pressure is not there. But do you think critical acclaim is enough? Long ago, Anupam Kher had said that these films should be shown in cinema halls, or more streaming platforms should be showing short films. Aren't you guys vying for that or hoping that change will come about?
Hoping for change, but also sometimes I feel, and it's hypothetically, like sometimes these are some of the dark thoughts that come in my mind, that what if I'm the last person left on earth and I'm making films? Will I still make films knowing that there is no audience? But the answer is, I think I'll still make films because it's an act of expression, despite how important it is for people to watch. But as a storyteller, you'll still be seeking different ways to tell stories. I honestly feel that going forward, as we talk about the critical acclaim, the festivals, all of that, I think that they're more like, if you go to an A-lister college, will you be an inventor eventually in your life? Yes, a high possibility that you will do it. But even if you're a dropout, I think you'll still make it, as long as you're curious to tell the story.
I feel, like the first time that I made a film and I was in a theater, at a festival, and I saw an audience see my work. It was very rewarding. It was a very enriching experience. I think, yes, I do want to make films that are seen. I think that's a part of the filmmaking journey. But yes, at the same time, I don't want to have to tailor my work to meet somebody else's idea of a market. Claim, yes, it's important, but it doesn't make the work better at the end of the day. But yeah, it's acknowledgement, and especially I think for independent filmmakers, it's also support. Okay, since we're talking about what I hear is, like we're talking about the distribution, ki hum baat kar rahe hain, and the avenues for exhibition, really. So short films, I think, have a lot more outlets in the West. I've had like short documentaries that were picked up by New York Times, and since then I've been wondering that is there a comparable platform here in India where creative documentaries or short films can be shown. So when I said that I'm hoping for change, I think it will help the entire ecosystem around making these films also. It will help better films to get made if we can find ways for them to be seen more. And like platforms in the West even pay you well, they license your films, you earn money from it, which you can use to make more films, and we all need to survive, pay bills also. So it is a marketplace, and I think we need it to develop a lot more.
मैं इस एरिया में तो गया नहीं हुआ. आई वर्कड एज एन एक्टर मोस्टली, और मुझे इस एरिया का ज़्यादा पता भी नहीं. बट यस, थैंक्स टू मामी एंड आईफोन दैट दे हैव टेकन दिस इनिशिएटिव टू मेक द film and to give taking all the young directors to make the film. And न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी, आईफोन से अब फिल्म बना रहे हैं तो बहुत सस्ता भी है, पर हाँ खर्चा भी है, टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट भी है, बहुत सी चीज़ें भी है. एवेन्यूज और हों तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. Definitely, critical acclaim मतलब क्रिटिक्स जिस तरीके से फिल्म को पढ़ते हैं, मैं किसी फिल्म के बारे में पढ़ूंगा, वो इतना तो इंस्पायर कर देते हैं. इट्स नॉट अबाउट जस्ट एक्टर और जस्ट डायरेक्शन. दे ओपन सो मैनी अदर एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ द फिल्म जो मुझे पुश करेगा देखने के लिए. तो आई थिंक क्रिटिकल क्लेम इज इम्पोर्टेंट, और एवेन्यूज भी मुझे लगता है कि और हो तो अच्छा है.
It's like one of those things we'll continuously keep talking about because कुछ जवाब तो है नहीं. In that, do we indulge in art, or do we make art for ourselves? Do we make the other? Do we make it for the gods? Whom do we make it for? So it's a question I think very subjective and personal to everybody. I think would it help? But it's also a circuit. It's like in where we are. If we make work, our work is seen. And that also ties back again that then greater potential to create more work. I might be able to go make a film which is very small in nature, maybe, if I don't have the resources. But if I do want to explore even in the short format something that requires resources, then it helps that the conceptually the idea of a short has sort of become viral or big or accepted or looked forward to. So it's a circuit. But of course, I think we all are very aware also of the other's gaze, of being, it is a performance art at the end of the day. In a way, it's an art of performing, and creation and performing. Of course, it starts with you, but there is, I think, a circuit with the watcher. I think we thrive on it. It inspires us. It's a circuit. So yeah, I think it's sure the more. Why not?
At the end of it, this sure is a performance art, of course.
I mean, I think as long as I keep on winning money with the acclaim, I'm fine. I don't care whether people want to watch the film or not. Like, as long as I get to do what I want to do, as long as I enjoy making the films. I mean, it's great if people could come and more people could know about it, or about my films, or things like that. But that's not really, I mean, personally, my goal that I want everybody to know who I am, or I want everybody to know what I have to say. I think it's just more, I think my urge really just came with my urge honestly just came with because I wanted to be an actor, but nobody was hiring me as an actor, and there was little to no characters for trans people on screens. So I was like, you know what, I think I'll just have to make my own character. So I mean, that's where I began, and I'm like, you know what, I don't care if people watch it or not. I think I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for girls like me. Maybe they will watch it and they will enjoy it, and we can talk about it and we can have fun with it. But I'm happy that some people are really acknowledging where I'm coming from, and they appreciate this hard work, because it's kind of like a fusion, of everything that you have been doing, the efforts that you have been putting throughout your work, throughout your life, in your personal and your professional life. I think that's very rewarding to be acclaimed by critics. But why not? Why not also have short films screened in theaters as well?
So you're almost on the same page as Faraz. You will make a film no matter what.
Yeah, I think this is something that, I really wish I could go back. But, I've tried a lot of different things, but I feel like I really can't go back. Even though I'm very young into filmmaking, I'm not made a lot of films or anything, but I feel like I'm so invested into it. I really enjoy the process of being on the set, every taxing task that there is, everything that comes up with shooting. I think that's one of the biggest pleasure that I've earned. And I don't think I can find the same pleasure anywhere else. So I think
Yeah,
we're on the same boat.
Harish has already spoken about how critics open so many fronts. But in times where every person on social media is a critic, do you think film criticism matters, or film critics matter, or what they say or writing matters?
I think everybody matters, right? I think every opinion should be listened to. And I understand that critics have a certain understanding of the films. They have done a lot of research. And they do have their own platform, which are much more acclaimed, have much more audience who are reading them. But at the same time, I think general audience opinion is also as important, honestly. I think for me, they're both important. I can't really compare both of them, but
It really does matter in terms of what people speak about your film. We are very curious the moment the film is out from the drive and we know tomorrow it's hitting the screen or it's releasing online. We are nail biting. And we are thinking that, how everybody is going to respond to it. People who are critically analyzing the film, and people who are non-critically also, like whom passe, they are just making comments about it. It really does matter. But I also realized that after making the film, as you spend time, you start understanding your own film in different ways, because you are constantly evolving yourself, just like the film. So suppose I've made a film, I feel that few months from now, the film marinates as the social milieu evolves around us. And we see Jaane Bhi Do Yaro completely differently today. Like the context of the film is absolutely different as the government shift, politically, socially, everything. And I feel that the film marinates itself. So how you analyze the film back in the time and how you do it today is such an evolving process. So what happens that when our film drops, and it's a delight sometimes to read a piece which makes me see my film very differently. At times I have come to know so much more about, say, somebody wrote about Kashmir, and he mentioned about a poet from Kashmir, which I'd missed out. It was not part of my research. I didn't go so much into it. And he made me read a few books. And when I went through it, I was like, it's just, I'm sort of perceiving my film in a very different way. So sometimes they add to the literature that already exists, which is beautiful. And at times also, this is something personally I do a lot. Sometimes when I feel really low, lonely, down, I go to Letterboxd and I read the reviews of my film, and they really uplift me. So sometimes I find a lot of refuge in Letterboxd also.
Yeah, it's not even about honestly, Letterboxd is such a platform where it's not even about, I see a lot of the Letterboxd, and that's the big difference that I see between Letterboxd and IMDb, is that every time I see on Letterboxd, they have the most unhinged reaction of the film, neither critical nor very appreciative. They would be also there, but you get to see that I get to understand that, okay, this is why we watch film, because to be entertained, right? And every other review on Letterboxd is the most funniest and best ones, I think. Even if the movie that I hate, I go and watch their Letterboxd reviews, and I'm like, this was funny. That's one of the best platforms that I found.
What I really enjoy doing sometimes is actually reading the comments of the comments that people put up for Tungros on YouTube, and I see how people are quite divided. I mean, I share this with Faraz. Sometimes I just want to see how the film is tracking, to use a very a marketing term, but it has evolved as a, I mean, it is I think it's an art form really, to be able to articulate a perspective on art, on a film. It's a skill, it's an ability. Not everybody has it. I remember I used to watch films, and the first thing I would do after watching a film is read what Roger Ebert has written about it, and it would help me understand the film in much more detail. I had my own reading of it, but here was a person who's been able to peel back several more layers. So my experience just grew by doing that, and I also learned. So, and as Faraz said, this is something I really agree with, that you discover a lot about your own work sometimes by reading what others have said about it, including the YouTube comments. That I mean, that is no less valid in this age of film criticism, which has been really opened up to different forms. Yeah.
And for us, this is a question for you. I really love the way you put in the internet ban reference in your story without making it political, and it is almost a personal thing, but there is a political undertone. So what was the inspiration for that? I would really like to know that.
My inspiration was actually, I was completely enamored by Kashmir as a land and the people. And I was very, very curious to explore that what is there in Kashmir beyond the military that we see and that sort of portrayal constantly in the media. Sometimes, we, in the exploration of realism that we want to exist in cinema, I really like to create my own individual realism that, I'm going to make a very make-believe world, which is also going to be utopian at the same time, where I made a film on Kashmir, but you don't see a single military in the film. That's actually the hope of the world that I really want that to exist. But at the same time, I'm going to convince you that, something like this actually exists. Whereas that's not really the case. Like every kilometer or 2 kilometers, when you actually get into navigating these parts of Kashmir from Srinagar to Dudhpatri and all those areas, you'll constantly see military and the kind of life that people are leading there. I went and I lived there for a while, and I wanted to develop a gaze because I'm usually very attracted to tell stories about milieus more than the people, like, an environment. Like I made my first film, which was of Allahabad. So because I'm from Allahabad, so I wanted to really tell a story about a city. So in the same gusto, I wanted to tell the story of Kashmir, like, what is the true Kashmiriyat. And I felt that you can only tell the true story of Kashmir when you neutralize Kashmir, when you actually forget about, like, every time it comes to Kashmir, it has to be the partition pathos that needs to come into picture. I'll be like, do hell with it. Let's think of something else. Let's think of Kashmir where, like, sometimes I feel that why can't you make Wake Up Sid in Kashmir? Why it has to be a Bombay Millie where you are making Wake Up? Aren't there students in Kashmir? You're not making it because it's the military, it's the partition pathos that you desire to see in Kashmir. But Kashmiri people are facing real problems. The problem of Kashmir is generating maximum electricity in the country. At the same time, they are having most amount of power outage. Why nobody is making films about it? In general, I was really attracted to explore Kashmir beyond the obvious Kashmir, and that led me to making the film about the internet in Kashmir. And I thought that while the film becomes political, my personal politics is not, I don't wear politics on my sleeves, but while I am political. So I thought that let's make how politics hampers the social fabric. Hence the film entirely became about this mother and the son, and not so much about internet became the backdrop that, in which the story occurs.
And Rishi, one of your key figures is a political person. Would you like to add anything to your story?
जब एक politician को represent किया जा रहा है, तो it was how to not turn it into a caricature. वो stereotypical tropes जो होते हैं कि ये तो ऐसा है, like villanesque. Also, the food deals with with cuisine, and like with food as a part of our like collective consciousness, the nostalgia and the memories around food. Jo politician figure hai, he's actually just a foodie, which is something that we all can be. So the idea was to humanize that person, because you can then engage in a conversation with such a character, and it becomes a more refreshing take.
We're talking about how everyone is a critic. Also, everyone wants to be a filmmaker or an actor these days. And short films, they think is the best way to go about it. Any advice for wannabe filmmakers and aspiring actors?
I think I'm one of those people who's like, everyone wants to be a filmmaker. I think I'm one of those. And I think just go and make it. I mean, for me, like, I was a person who was like, filmmaking and me could never. Because I grew up watching movies like which were like very mainstream Oscar-winning films, like Woody Allen or like, very big films. There's so many filmmakers, big filmmakers that I know of. And I'm like, we can't make films, right? Because we are to like very common people. But until I ran into one of my friends, his name is Virundhu, and he's like, you know what, we will make a film. And I'm like, we can't make a film. What are you talking about? Like, have you seen those movies? But like it was just about like, getting whatever the sources that you have with around you, get your friends on board, get a story right, and just start doing it, act upon it. I've also seen a lot of my friends who would be going on and on and on and on and on about talking about films and how they should be making films. But like, even a person who doesn't have enough knowledge about making films, but he's making films, and a person who has a lot of knowledge about making films, but he's just very much lost in his thoughts. I think the person who doesn't know enough about filmmaking, but is still making films is like more important to me, because, actions always speak louder than words. In the beginning, I thought there's like some rules that I need to do. I need to read some books. I need to do this and that. But with practice, you learn everything. I didn't know anything about call sheets. I didn't know anything about how to make a budget. I don't know what is short breakdown. I'm like, that is impossible. And I think with time I learned it, when I start doing it, when you start practicing it, सब समझ में आने लग जाता है, and eventually you reach a place, and at the end of the day, if the main point is to communicate what your ideas are, and if you're able to do it in any way or form, that's good enough. So that's how it worked out for me so far.
So everything is possible for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sheeba, what would you say to aspiring actresses, actors, not actresses alone?
देख लो. I think it's not for the weak-hearted. I feel like action. As actors, we don't really normally we don't create content, na? We're at the we get to choose, or if you're lucky, from what is offered to us. But like Bonita has gone and made the content, that something quite amazing. Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, is all I say. But then it's in the doing of it. If you feel you can just do it, then do it. But you do not know. There's no science to it at all. I feel our work. There's really no science to it at all. So if you're willing to commit and sort of take a leap of faith and do a free fall, 100%, go for it.
हरीश जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे इसके बारे में?
I have made one short film myself. That's also a guerrilla shoot. एक आइडिया आया था, अपने फ्रेंड से शेयर किया, तो उसने कहा सर बनाते हैं ना. बनाया. It's like docu short film kind of thing. So it was during Ganpati. There was only one protagonist in it who wants to fulfill his father's dream after his death. There's this Ganpati area जहाँ पे गणपति विसर्जन हो रहा है, and then there is a श्राद्ध area in Powai. What happened जब श्राद्ध शुरू हुआ, उन दिनों बारिश इतनी थी कि वहां पे रश हो ही नहीं रहा. आई नीडेड द क्राउड. तो मुझे किसी ने बताया कि लास्ट डे ऑफ अमावस में ऐसे ऐसे होगा. तो आई वेंट देयर, वी डिड द पेपर वर्क. वी नो कि अगर ये निकल गया तो हम कर ही नहीं पाएंगे, मतलब ये फिर अगले साल चला जाएगा. और लास्ट डे ऑफ द श्राद्ध वहां पे कोई 2-2.5 लाख लोग आते हैं पवई लेक पे. अमावस की रात होती है. तो पूरा पेपर वर्क किया हुआ था. हम 4-5 लोग थे, उससे ज़्यादा थे नहीं हमारे पास. मतलब पैसा, किसी की गाड़ी जुगाड़, किसी का कैमरा जुगाड़, और वहां पे जाके ये हो गया कि हमने उस फिल्म को शूट कर दिया. तो हाँ, एस्पायरिंग एक्टर बनाना चाह रहे हैं, उनके पास सब्जेक्ट है, तो आई थिंक आपको जाना पड़ेगा. शीबा सेट, अपने आप को धकेल दो, कर लो. राजीव रवि, वन ऑफ माय डीओपी फ्रेंड, ही सेड कि हरीश बनाना शुरू कर, लोग जुड़ जाएंगे तेरे साथ. तो ऐसे ही हुआ. मतलब थॉट आया, बात की, उसके बाद लोग जुड़ते गए. 4-5 लोग थे, और कम से कम उसमें हमने एक शॉर्ट फिल्म 10 मिनट की शूट की.
I think you have to have the stomach for it. You have to have the stomach for rejection, for uncertainty. A lot of variables come into play when making a film. Yet you don't want to be obsessed with any kind of validation. You have to stay true to yourself also. मुश्किल काम है. I mean, to be very honest, I have like a love-hate relationship with filmmaking. I would never be able to say, oh, I love making films. Not all. But it's a rewarding journey. I think it leads to a lot of growth for me as a person, and anybody making a film will experience that.
It is evolving, and the nature of short films are evolving. The nature of distribution is evolving. The nature in which we are recognizing the talent around the short film culture, that is also changing. There are so many sub-genres which are taking birth from short films now. There are like short film horror film festivals which are like so specific to just short films which are coming. So I feel that the more audience we will culture, the more short films and different kinds of short films and festivals and distribution system we'll be able to construct from here on. So I feel that 5 years from now, I trust me, I don't have that sort of body of work where I'll really be able to predict that where we are going to go. But I honestly feel that there is a space for everybody right now. We are as grim and dark things might be for independent filmmakers, but there is, we are living in this era where there is space for everyone. Like, some 7-8 years back, we were as Sheeba ma'am said, that we weren't as sure about short films, we weren't as clear about short films as articulate we are about this medium and distribution and the kind of films which we are making. So I feel that there is going to be, more of such awards as we have right now. There's going to be more of such recognition, more of these Zoom calls. And right now you have, 5 talents joining the Zoom call. Perhaps, you're going to have like more people joining in because it's constantly changing. I often I'm constantly seeing that it's also the known directors in the mainstream culture. They are also making short films right now. There are brands which are jumping in to make short films. H&M every year funds a lot for making short film directed by Wes Anderson. So I feel that there is, of course, I think somewhere where you're hinting that when it is going to go mainstream in terms of distribution, Harish ji said that, when the monies are going to flow in, hopefully, inshallah, I really want all of that to really happen. I feel that it is slightly getting better. It is at a slow pace, though, but I hope that in the next 5 years, it's going to pick up.
It's the ecosystem around short films, I think, that will decide where it goes from. It's not about, this element of instant gratification that comes with an event like a T20. I mean, if you use the same analogy of, cricket, then it's also a test match. It requires, nurturing, patience. A lot of variables are involved, from funding. It doesn't end with making the film. Critical claim or the role of film criticism is very important for a healthy ecosystem around this, because most short films will still be made independently by filmmakers with very limited resources. Also, I don't know if more films means better films. More short films doesn't always mean better short films. Just because it's gotten a bit easier to make short films is not going to ensure good films. There has to be a larger ecosystem around it, which will decide this.
That's absolutely right. It has to be both, more and better. So on that note, thank you so much for your time. It's such a pleasure to watch your work, and best of luck to all of you.